Well, hello and welcome to week 3 of English 153, Introduction to Literature. This is a fun week. It's not quite as busy as last week. Okay, I'm sorry I wasn't able to kind of level out all the workload. The readings are fun. There's not very many of them for a change. And the theme is love and hate. Okay, and of course, love is a universal theme and hate comes along with it. All right, and you'll see this in these stories. Let's just start off with what you're going to read. First of all, I want you to look at this TED Talk by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, all right? And she talks about what it's like to have a story and whose story is it really, okay? And why there's only just one story, why aren't there multiple stories, okay? One of the things about going to college is you learn to avoid binary thinking. And binary thinking is when you think your choices are this or that, all right? You're one end of the scale or the other end of the scale, okay? There are lots of other choices in between. There are lots of other ways to think, all right? You don't have to just think Democrat or Republican or red or blue or black or white or gay or not gay, that kind of thing, okay? There's ways to look at issues from a variety of aspects, from kind of a global perspective, all right? You see things differently that way, and that's what she's talking about, all right? So with that said, I want you to look at this short video of analysis of Kate Chopin's Story of an Hour. It's a very short story, but it's very complex. You have to really get it. You have to think about it to see what's going on, and you have to look at it in the all literature needs to be looked at in the context of the times in which it was written. All right, history moves along a continuum and it changes, okay? And just because something's the way it is today, don't forget it wasn't that way a long time ago. And I remember recently, not too recently, I saw a movie called, I think, A Beautiful Mind, and it takes place at Princeton, and the opening scenes at Princeton are all these college freshmen with their ties and white shirts on. Not one woman in the scene, not one woman in the picture. Women could not go to Princeton in the early 1950s, okay? So think about that. So that's just an example of how things change, all right? So Story of an Hour, think about when it was written. You can look it up. You can Google it or go to Wikipedia, all right, and see when it was written and then kind of understand the cultural context, historical context of the time, all right? Ernest Hemingway, Hills Like White Elephants. It's not one of my favorite short stories, but it's one I could find that didn't cost you anything, okay? And Ernest Hemingway is one of my favorite authors. He wasn't a nice person. He's definitely misogynist, okay? But he's a terrific writer, all right? So I want you to look at his writing in terms of the skill of the writing. What you'll see here is you'll see he writes, in this case, a lot of conversation. I want you to discover how else he writes, okay? And that is in the analysis, all right? But look at his writing carefully. Think about the actual writing structure, the actual writing form, and say to yourself, wow, what's going on here, okay? Shakespeare sonnets, I don't need to introduce you to Shakespeare. There is a good crash course. What's his name? Anyway, he's really funny. You'll like that. Understanding Emily Dickinson. If you haven't run across her in high school, she's a lot of fun, but really difficult, okay? But short. I mean, short and simple, which is cool, all right? Corinthians. You all should know Corinthians, all right? Beautiful, beautiful poem. Beautiful scripture for the Bible, actually. Okay, so read two of the short stories. Here they are. The links are right there. They're buried right there. And then read the following poems. And I'm not saying read every single one of them, okay? Here's the 5 most romantic sonnets. They're short, all right? And then the love poems of Emily Dickinson. Pick 4 or 5. They're short. Okay, so going down. Discussion 3. Very, very important this week. You know, we're halfway through the class. Can you believe it? And your final project is to pick 3 authors from the class, 3 that we've read in this class, please, okay? Because that's the ones we're studying, all right? And I want you to compare and contrast them. I want you to analyze them. I don't want you to tell me about them. I don't want a biographical sketch. I don't want a Wikipedia account, but I want an analysis between 3 authors and their works, all right? And I do provide, and if you go to week 6, you'll see I provide some examples there. I provide a rubric there, and it's a PowerPoint project. It's a lot of fun, all right? PowerPoint's fun. It's not an essay. How you like that? We end with a PowerPoint and not an essay. So discussion 3 simply asks you to go ahead and at this point, who are your 3 favorite authors and what are your 3 favorite works? Now, it can change. I'm not locking you in, okay, to the final week. I'm just saying, hey, take a look now and tell each other what you're thinking, okay? Here's the week 3 essay. Please read the details on that. It's asking you about, I'll just go ahead and read it. Hang on. Using a close read of any 2 of the 3 short stories for this unit, trace the trajectory of love turning to hate. And I can give you a clue about Hemingway. I forgot to mention this. His characters always hate each other, okay? They always end up hating each other. You can see it all of his writing. All right. He was a difficult man, married multiple times. And he was just difficult, all right, and a lot of arguing all the time, and I just hate those kinds of relationships, myself. I learned how to not have that finally after 50 years of marriage. Okay, okay. So trace a trajectory. What exactly causes their feelings to change, and how do they express it? Use a lot of details, specifics, and direct quotes. That's what we're talking about. Okay, bring the writing into your own writing, to your own thinking. Okay, don't let the quotes do the writing for you. You have to say what the quotes mean, but use the quotes to illustrate your point, to show your point, show the reader, me, how you got to that point. Okay, for help in quoting and citing, see the literature resources tab. Okay, discuss the common themes of love among the works, Paul. So you can do one or the other. Okay, see, one or two. You don't need to do both. Okay, so two of the short stories, or the common themes of love among the Paul, that's Corinthians, okay, Shakespeare and Dickinson. Okay, use a lot of detail and specific. I think that's pretty clear. Your essay's been really good. Okay, at least week 1 was. I haven't started grading week 2. I might take a couple of days to do that. All right, but I'll get her done. And then I have those discussions also to grade. So if you have questions, you know how to get a hold of me. I think the class is moving along well. We are in the 3rd week. So that said, enjoy this week. And stay safe, please.